Welcome, and let's get started. Hey guys, Charles here, back again with another episode of that Worship Guitar Show. While we get started here, please let me know where you are tuning in from and whether you can hear my guitar, hear my voice, and see everything nice and clear. Once we've got that tech out of the way, then we are going to kick right into today's lesson. We've got Ray saying, good morning from Grand Rapids, Michigan. God's kingdom is advancing to the beat of our worship. I love that. That's a great way to look at it, because really awesome things happen when we engage in powerful, meaningful, and intentional worship. So welcome, Ray. And we've got Brian Bilashupka from Indiana, USA. Both Brian and Ray are members of our Worship Guitar Skills Academy, so always great to see you guys here. Awesome. So I think we are good to go. If you get a moment, let me know whether the guitar's okay. And then Kenan saying, J-Bay SA sounding great. Brian says, sound is good, yeah. That is awesome. Great to hear that. Thank you so much, guys. And then Danny saying all clear. I believe that is the India flag. Yeah. Welcome, Danny. Great to have you with us, tuning in all the way from India. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So today is kind of an episode that's dedicated to answering some questions. And if ever you want to go ahead and submit some questions, all you got to do is go to worshipguitarskills.com/questions. You can go ahead and add your questions in there. I'm going to be answering some of those questions that have been submitted there before. So we're going to get right into that. And if you guys have any questions watching live here on the stream, feel free to ask away, and then happily help you out with that. We've got Antti, another one of our WGS Academy members, watching and saying hello from Finland. Awesome, awesome. Great to see you here, Antti. All right, so I'm going to quickly tune up. We've got the aircon blasting in the studio here, and that normally wreaks a little bit of a havoc on the tuning. So let's just see if we can get it as close as possible into tune. All right, so there we go. That is questions. If you want to go ahead and submit any of those, feel free to do so. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read the first question, which let's go ahead and let me just get that on my computer here so I can go ahead and read that. Okay, cool. This is a great question. Let me go and read that. And I believe this came in from Paul. Now, Paul is saying, I've always struggled finding the right notes and chord shapes. Anything above the cowboy chords, I tend to struggle with. I would appreciate some content on how to practically apply which caged chord shapes go with which scale shapes, and then how to practice finding the roots, the thirds, and the fifths within a given progression. All right, that's an awesome question, Paul. And obviously there's a lot of elements and components to that question. So what I'm going to do, let me just organize my screen so I can refer back to your question as we answer it over here today. Making that a bit smaller, and then we should be good to go. All right, so the first thing that I think is very useful, obviously we're going to get to the cage system, we're going to talk about all those things that you've just mentioned there, Paul. But basically, when it comes to cowboy chords, right? Everyone calls them cowboy chords, and for those of you who might not be familiar with the term, it's when you do this kind of thing. And I can go to our second angle here on the guitar so we can see that a little bit closer. So if you just play, you know, that kind of, they call those cowboy chords, all right? However, when you learn how to just embellish those chords a little bit, you can get a lot of value out of that. So instead of just playing G, like a standard G like this, that'll be like considered to be a cowboy G. Then all you got to do is add some fingers and add notes to the chord. So if I do this, for example, if I take that finger off, there's this becomes G5. If I do that, it becomes G major 7. If I add the pinky and the first finger there, that becomes G add 9. Similarly, if I play a C like this, it's C, but if I add my pinky on the D string, it becomes a C add 9, or here's another C add 9. Or even a sharp 11 into the mix there. You know, all these kind of things, a D to a D sus, to a D sus 2, back to a D, or an A minor, that can become an A minor 7. So experiment with some of those chords, because it's not really the chord that is the cowboyness in it. They, you know, that term comes from when you play like, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's where the cowboyness comes from. But what I want to encourage you to do is don't think of these chords as strumming. Think of them when you do like some kind of a picking thing. So if I put a bit of a delay on here. E minor 7, that C add 9, to that sharp 11. So see, you can get a totally different vibe from these open chords. So when you learn how to embellish them and add some bits and pieces to these shapes, that can be super useful. So I want to encourage all of you guys to go ahead and just see what can you do. Like for example, this is an E. But if I take that note and I put it there, then this becomes an E add 9. Same here, this is an A. One note back. It becomes an A major 7. So you can do a ton by spicing up those chords, and you do this by adding notes to the chord or taking notes away using the scale, and we're going to get to that in a second. And then the other thing I want you to do is don't strum those chords always. Start using some picking and even hybrid picking. If I have a bit of a delay on there. You can get some really cool sounds using those chords. So add notes, take notes away, and don't strum, but rather pick them. Now, on to the second part of Paul's question is he'd like some content on how to practically apply which caged chord shapes go with which scale shapes. So what I want to do real quick here is let me shoot over to the iPad. And then for those of you who don't know what the cage system in essence really is, it's just 5 chord shapes. C, A, G, E, D. So that spells caged, and on the guitar now you can see I can play a C, I can play an A, I can play a G, I can play an E, and I can play a D. Those are all open chords. But check this out, I can play a C with a C shape. So just look at my shape here, I'm playing a C with a C shape. Then I can also play a C with an A shape. So it's the same chord, but it's a different shape. Or I can play a C with a G shape. Okay, now that's a tricky one to play in its entirety. Or I can play a C with an E shape. That's C with an E shape. Or I can even play C with a D shape all the way up there, because that shape there is like a D chord, and then that's the cage system. So that, for those of you who don't know, that is the cage system. It's so I can play C with, or let's take the key of D. I can play D with a C shape, D with an A shape, D with a G shape, D with an E shape, and then back to D with a D shape, which is 12 frets lower. That's going to give you D. That is the cage system. So now we've gotten that out of the way, we can go ahead and check out some cool things that I want to show you in this lesson as it relates to Paul's question there. We've got Jeff just joined us from Michigan. Hey Jeff, great to see you. Welcome back to the show. All right. There's two things in Paul's question. What is the scale shape and what is the chord shape? Okay, now this is what you can see in front of you right now. That's a scale shape in the key of A. Okay, and that is a scale shape. So that is the A major scale. Now, what I'm going to show you guys today, if you grasp this concept, you are going to be able to get so much value out of this. Because a scale in and of itself, and we're about to do a whole deep dive on scales in the academy, but scales in and of itself is just a collection of notes. Like you could hear do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? And then another octave. But that doesn't really sound like music, right? So how do you now, to Paul's question, go ahead and practically apply the chord shapes with scale shapes? And that's what I want to show you right now. Within this scale, and let's get a highlight color. Let's kind of go for this bluish color. Within this scale, I've just played for you, however many notes there are, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 17 notes, right? So there, if I play just these notes together, then what's happening there, how many of you guys know what shape I am using here? Because we were talking earlier about using the caged system. So that means you can play any chord with any shape. So if you want to venture a guess to which shape I'm using for this chord, this is going to be an A chord. I'll play it for you on the guitar. That's A. All right. So here I have my scale. And my chord. So there is the E shape. So Jeff is saying the C shape. It looks similar to the C shape, but if you look at that note, and that note, you'll see that that is an E shape right there. So it's like I'm taking an E shape over here. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and A. All right, so there we go. It's the E shape, all right, of the A major chord. So we've so far identified two things, the scale and the chord. Okay, now I'm going to keep this very simple, but the scale, basically, and I can draw this out for us over here, the scale has 7 notes. Let's go there. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes before we start again at 1. All right, now when I play the 1, the 3, and the 5, those are going to be the notes that make up A major. And those are the notes that I've highlighted. So I'll just show you here real quick. This is an A, that's an E, that's another A, that's a C sharp, and that is a E, and that's an A. And together, it makes up A major, which sounds very similar to A major over there. Okay. Very important, you just need to know where the roots are. So now instead of making that first note there blue, let's go and make that like this red, because that note is the note A. All right, and in the same fashion, this note over here is A, because it's an octave higher, and finally my last note over there is also A. So now I've got an octave shape here on A, and A to give me A major. When you know where the root notes are, Paul, then it's easy for you to move them around. So then you can say this is A, this is G, because this note is a G note, and that's why it sounds the same as a G chord. So that's your first port of call. Learn the shape, learn the scale shape, and then learn the chord shape, and know where the roots are. We're going to get to thinning out the chords shortly, but for now, let's just leave it at that. The second thing is, like I said, I'm going to take this away, so we're going to make that red, okay? So that is our A. Now our next note is going to be the, in this case, let's make it the third, okay? So we only have one C sharp in this shape, which is that note there. And I'm going to take this away. Okay, let's just try that again. Okay, I'm going to make that C sharp, that's my third. And then my final one, we leave that as blue. So now you can clearly see what's happening on the screen right now. And if I actually go ahead and write in some of, in fact, we won't write it in, I'll just call them out. This is A, that is A, that is A. The green note is C sharp, which is the same as that C sharp for an A. And that is E and that is E. So there you go. Now you know what the notes are with a shape. So you're no longer seeing 7 notes. In fact, there's more, but it's just a repeat, right? You are simply seeing 3 notes. You're seeing the red, which is the A. You're seeing the green, which is the C sharp. And then you're seeing the blue, which is the E. And we call that the 5th. All right, so all of that to say, that is how you see the A major within the scale shape. So now that kind of means that if I've got an A chord, then I can use that scale in any way, shape, or form over the chord. We'll do that with the backing shortly. But here comes the big lesson that I want to show you guys today. And this is something that I didn't always understand when I first started playing, and I couldn't quite see, you know, the magic, so to speak, behind this, where you can have one shape but multiple chords. So what I've just done is I've played an A major chord, all right? So we know that, we played A major with an E shape. So I can say, in fact, let's see. I'll show you guys that on a different screen shortly, but I played A major with a C shape. But look at this. I can go on my guitar. What is the 4 chord in A? It's D, right? Now I can play a D with an A shape. That makes sense, right? So if I wanted to play A to a D, okay, just a very simple rhythm there. A to D, which sounds like A to D. Now, where's the realization? Well, here it is. I'm going to make that red again. So that note there is a D, and that note there, okay, that's a double tap there, that's a D. Then we're going to go to the green note. This note here is an F sharp, and then finally we're going to go to the blue, which is going to be an A, and I'm going to show you that shortly. There's an A and there's an A. All right. So I've got a D note, an A note, a D note, an F sharp note, and an A note. So can you see what happened here? The scale shape didn't change because you can see all my gray notes on the screen, as you can see there. But my chord shape changed. Can you see that? So that means I can use an A major scale shape with the E shape, and I can play an A chord. I can use the same scale shape and play a D chord. And by the way, I can use the same scale shape to play an E chord, which will be E with a C shape. So let me know in the comments if that's useful to actually see. And I'm going to go ahead and just undo some of this stuff to show you the E shape. And maybe for this we'll move to another screen shortly. But if we go again, we're going to go red. This is an E. That is an E. Then the green, we're going to go, that's a G sharp right there. That's a G sharp. And then finally, the other blue note there is going to be a B. So now I can see again how within that same scale shape, I didn't change the scale shape, I kept the notes the same. And that is E right there. So now I can play 1, 4, and 5. Okay, now let's get back to kind of a worship environment. A, D, Okay, A, D, E, but the scale shape is the same for all of them. So what I've done here is I've prepared this for us, so that I can show you. Let's write here. So that this is going to, let's see what tracks I've got. Maybe we change the key. The shapes will stay the same. Maybe go 1, 6, 4, 5, and G. Okay, so let's just imagine, and for that we can go ahead and I'll just do the highlight, but let's use a darker highlight this time. Maybe even this heavy black one. And let's make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Undo. And is that the darkest black we got? Looks like it. Okay. So I'm going to move that up a bit. G with an E shape is right there. Okay, so what I've got here, and I'll write it down, it's a G chord using an E shape. That is a bit thick. Let's go and just tweak that slightly. Okay, I have a G major chord, and what shape am I using? The E shape. Now, we said 1, 6, 4, 5. Let's leave the 6 for a moment. We haven't done that yet. I'll come back to it now. Now, the 4 chord is going to be C, and it's going to look like this. That's that A shape we used on the previous screen. Pretty much similar and identical to that, but it's C with an A shape. All right? C with an A shape. There's my A shape right there. And then my final chord, 5, is going to be D. There's my D. And that's going to use, again, the C shape. And that's the one we looked at on the screen a moment ago, was the C shape like this. The C shape like that. Okay. Now, what about E minor? I need to have an E minor because I'm going to play 1, 6, 4, 5. Do I need to go and change my scale? No. I can leave my scale exactly as is, and my E minor is going to look like this. And you might recognize this. I'll just show it to you like that. You might recognize that shape from this. Check this out. Am I right? Okay, I'm in there. Where does this come from? It's a D minor that I just move up. So in this case, I can go ahead and complete the writing over here. And I can say that's an E minor with, in this case, I'm just going to say D shape, even though it's a D minor shape. But now we can see, based on that caged system, we are using the C shape, we are using the A shape, we're not using the G shape, but we are using the E shape, and we are using the A, D minor shape. So what does that mean? I'm not quite too happy with the way this black kind of featured there. So let's just see if, looks like I might have to just, maybe I can do something else here quickly. Okay, so I'll just put some dots in here quickly, see if that makes it clearer for us. G, okay, and then we've got E minor. Much easier when you do this on neck diagrams, but you can't quite go as fast as I'm going right now. C, and then D, and I'll zoom out so you can see all of the notes shortly. Okay. So the big deal here is there's one scale shape, but 4 different chord shapes. And I'm going to share something else that's pretty massive shortly with regards to the cage system. So now I can play G. I can play E minor, I can play C, and I can play D, all from the same scale shape. Because what you're seeing here with all these grey notes that I've prepared for us beforehand, all these grey notes, right there, there, and there, and there, and there, they're all the same shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly fire up this 1645 track, and then I'm just going to pick some open notes, and I'll change to a dirty sound, and I'm going to play some melodic stuff using the same scale. All right, so let's check it out. Let me know if the track needs to go up or down. So that's G, E minor, C to D, minor, C, and then D. All right, so all I did is I stayed in one area and I was able to play all the notes that you just heard there using the same scale shape. So the big takeaway to Paul's question is when you use the same scale shape to play different chords, it becomes like a transformer, right? I was watching YouTube the other day and I saw an ad for looks like to be a new Transformers movie. So the transformer can transform. It can be the robot, it can be a super cool looking Porsche, it can be whatever. It's a transformation that happens as a result of that ability to transform. So that scale shape, and we only looked at one shape, you also have the other shapes of the cage system as well, which we can get to, but it's going to be too long for today. But that is what you want to do, is you want to learn how to use one scale shape to play over different chords and to play different chords. Now, some of you might have noticed that I did not play the full shapes every time. Because when you do that, the chords are a little bit too big. So it's better if you just say, focus on that part of the neck, the top three strings all the time. Then you can have G, E minor, C, D, or the strings 3, 4, 2, or strings 5, 4, 3. Okay, now for this one, was this a note missing in the chart? But can you see how I become much more adaptable with my shape? So Anti's saying whenever you find the chord's root note on the 5th string, the C shape is to the left and the A shape is to the right. Yeah, that's a great tip. So if the C shape for the D is going to be to the left and the A shape is going to be to the right. And then Anti is saying on the 6th string, the G shape is to the left and the E shape is to the right. Awesome, because once you start seeing these shapes and how they work, it becomes easy for you to spot the patterns. Now, part of Paul's question was, how do I know what are the roots and what are the fifths and what are the thirds? Yeah, Anti's saying, considering you're not playing left-handed, so yeah, we're not discriminating against left-handed players. So obviously if you're left-handed, you just go ahead and invert that. But now if I look at this, and this is the other big thing that I want to talk about today. Let's just go a little bit smaller there. That is going to be my root, my fifth, my root, my third, my fifth, and my root for the G chord. For the E minor, this is my root, my fifth. In fact, I'm still too thick on that note. Let's just go even thinner. Okay, so that is my root. That's my fifth, it's my root, and this is a flat 3 because it's a minor third. This is a root, a fifth, a root, a third, and a fifth. And then for the D chord, this is my root, like Anti says, if you know where the root is, the 3, the 5, the 1, and the 3. So Paul, that's how you're going to go about that, is understanding that in this instance, let's find a way where I can show you that. Okay, let's look at that top note on the G string. No, not the G string, the E string. There, that note is a root. There it's a flat third. There it's a fifth, and there it's a looks like I wrote that. There it's a third. It's not part of the chord, but it's right next to the F sharp. So how does that note change all the time? Because it'll become a fourth, by the way, over the D. It's just the fact that when the chords change, here's the big writer downer. If you use the same scale shape, when the chord changes, the notes, the position of the notes stay the same, but the degree of the notes change. So that means if I play a G note over a G chord, it's a root, like you can see right there. Okay? If I play a G note over an E minor, it becomes a flat 3. If I play it over a C, it becomes a fifth. And if I play it over a D, it's a sus4 that I can resolve. So then, while the note position stayed the same, root, flat 3, 5, 4, 3, 1, flat 3, 5, 4, 3, 1. And I want to leave you with that for Paul's question as it relates to the scale shape. So what we've done, if you wanted to recap everything, so it's a long answer because it was a big question and there's so much more that we can cover there. But basically, I've just shown you now the E shape. Okay, you have 5 shapes of that scale. Okay, and you can just Google it. We'll get a resource together as well to show you guys. But the 5 cage scale shapes for the major scale, they're the same across the neck. They're all going to fit together. So you got 5 shapes. Within each one of those 5 shapes, you can play 7 chords. Why? Because we have diatonic keys happen like that. So I can quickly show you like this. I'm not going to play the chords when I'm playing an arpeggio. So what's an arpeggio? This is an A. Let's go second cam. This is an A. Those are all the notes that would make up the A chord. 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. And then I come back down. So that's A. Now I can also do B minor. 1, flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3, 5, 1. I can do C sharp minor. D. E. F sharp minor. And then a G diminished. G sharp diminished, right? So many things that you can do. Back to the A. Okay, so you have 5 shapes. Within each one of those 5 shapes, you can play 7 different chords. And when you play a song like I just did, a 1, 6, 4, 5, every time the chords change, while the note position will remain the same on the guitar, the degree of those notes will change. And that's why it's good practice to learn your arpeggios like I've just shown you, because that's going to show you where the notes are. And the final thing that I've done in my playing here today, instead of playing these big shapes, I used chord fragments. Right, so A, F sharp minor, D, E, when you don't play the whole chord, it becomes much more flexible that you can actually go ahead and do some stuff with. So great stuff. Thank you for that question, Paul. I'll just remind you guys, whoops, that's the wrong one, sorry. If you guys ever want to submit any questions for me to answer on these shows, you can just go to worshipguitarskills.com/questions, and I'll happily answer those for you. All right, if any of you watching live have a question, feel free to pop it in the comment section. Otherwise, I am going to go ahead and grab a few more of the pre-submitted questions and see what else we've got some time to go over. All right, cool. Okay, so This next question, unfortunately I didn't catch the name of this, but the question basically states the following. It's saying, I'm struggling with chord shapes and understanding to transpose effortlessly to the strings D, B, D, G, B, and high E as I can do with power chords. I learned the fretboards in 80s style power chords, so I need to break away and learn easy patterns for the 4 higher strings. Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, if you're talking about power chords, you know, those are easy to play all over the neck, especially with what you've learned there from your 80s style playing. So that'll be a G, this will be a G, that'll be a G, this will be a G, that'll be a G. You know, there's many different ways to play that same power chord. Now, on the top 3 strings, that's actually, and this wasn't planned, but this actually fits in nicely with what we've just done, is learning how to play these arpeggios or learning how to play triads. So when you look at, say, an A chord like we've had before, if I go back to our other shape over here. Okay, cool. I won't have all of them to show you, but basically if I play an A chord like this, most people would revert to playing an A5 like that. But if you look at this on the iPad, just for that one chord, you can actually see what I've got written there is an E. Okay? Using the A shape. So you can learn to play E with a D shape, or you can learn this E like that, or even like this, and then finally like that. That's known as inversion. So if I go back to, let's see what we can do. I think let me go back to this one that we drew out just now. And if I go and just make that a little bit bigger, and we focus just on that G right now, learn how to play, if you play, instead of just playing G like this, learn how to play the top 3 strings, strings 2, 3, 4, strings 5, 4, 3. And then, now that's out of the scale. But every time I played an arpeggio, that's very important because, let's see, yeah, we're running out of time for me to draw the whole thing out. But basically this is a G, just the top 3. So that's 1, 3, 5, then 1, 3, 5, or 1, 3, 5, or 1, 3, 5. It's all inversions. So now I can play G like this on strings 1, 2, 3, G like this on 2, 3, 4, on 3, 4, 5, and 4, 5, 6. Now we know that I can do this with A minor as well. There's A minor. With B minor, let me think, there we go. Then with C, D, E minor, etc. So every chord that you play, I just couldn't draw all of that out for you today. We're just running out of time. But every chord that you play can be played as an inversion. So I would recommend that for you because then you're going to get out of thinking just purely power chords and you're actually going to think about the triad. You know, and if I take in another progression, let's just do a 1-4 real quick, which is going to be G and C. So here we have G. To a C. G. C. etc. So you can kind of keep doing all of that over and over when you know all of those inversions. So that is really the answer. Triads and inversions. Because this is the three notes here is GBD, 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 and GBD. Those are the only three notes, but the order is different. Here it is BDG, here it is GBD, here it is DGB, and then BDG. That allows you to play the G triad with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 shapes per triad across the neck. 12 shapes per triad, and then, like you said, if you wanted to do all 4 of the higher strings, well, then you just combine 1, 2, and 3, 2, 3, and 4, just combine them together. And then for the E minor, that's exactly what we did just a moment ago. Then for the C, and then for the D, that is how you can go ahead and, you know, get some really good mileage out of those shapes without really having to learn any new voicings, because they're all right there already. But instead of trying to play these fat chords, these big chord shapes, I play fragments of those shapes, but not just fragments, intentional chord fragments where I understand this is a triad, that's a root, that's a third, that's a fifth, etc. And I know that they all come from the same scale shape. That right there, if you can really get that, it will make a very, very, very big difference in your playing. So let me know if that's been useful. 2 great questions in and around the cage system. And we've got Binod Rokaya watching from Nepal saying, thanks for the session, praise be to God. Awesome, welcome Binod, great to see you. Thanks for joining in live. So yeah, that is really as simple as it is. Once you have those things down, you can start to experiment. And instead of playing just an A triad, you can make that an add 9, or a major 7, or a 6, or an add 4, or a sus 4, or a sus 2, back to an A. So see, I've taken my triad. Then I went up, down, up, down, up, down, and I finish it there. So an A on the high E, now the B, and then the G. Why am I showing you that? Because once you know the basics of where the triads are and where all the notes are located, then you can go right away and you can start embellishing those and start playing all the other stuff. But sometimes people end up learning a major 7 sharp 11 or a whatever the case may be, you know, interesting chord shapes, but they don't really understand the foundational elements of triads, and therefore it limits the level to which your brain can really understand chord construction and how these things have been put together. So Just always remember that. Pay attention to your chord triads and your chord tones. All right, well, that brings us to the end of today's session. It was 2 detailed answers to 2 very good questions. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to let us know. And if you have a moment, whether you're watching the replay or whether you're watching live, we've got a feedback form based on these sessions, and that gives you an opportunity to give us feedback. What did we do well? What can we improve? What would you like to see more of, less of, whatever the case may be. Our goal here is really to create lessons that serve a need and that communicate what you guys need to learn on the guitar. So whatever the case may be as it relates to the content, our presentation, how we do things, let us know how we can help you become a better guitarist, because at the end of the day, it's all about developing your worship guitar skills, really unlocking your own unique sound and style, and ultimately releasing that sound. I think that is what the church will really benefit from when you learn to play like you and not try and sound like me or another guitar player. Because just like our fingerprints are unique, so is our life experiences, our style on the guitar, our identity, our personalities, all these kind of things. When you learn how to let that shine through in your playing, that is when you become a real blessing to the body of Christ. Not from a performance point of view, but just from a pure expression. And if you read the Psalms and you listen to King David and how expressive he was, and his thankfulness and his gratitude and all those things that he really expressed to God, to minister to the Lord, to magnify his name. When we learn how to use our skills and our abilities to really do that, we become a real asset for the kingdom, because we are making his name great and we are giving other people the opportunity to join in with that process of ministering to the Lord and worshiping God. So I'll leave you guys with those thoughts. Any comments, questions, or suggestions or feedback you want to leave for us, you can go ahead and do that at worshipguitarskills.com/feedback. And then, of course, we also have the questions section as well, where you can go ahead and add any questions. No, those are 2 feedbacks. There we go. It should be this one. If you have any questions for us to answer on future episodes. So much love. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much. We released a new YouTube video. I think it went live yesterday with some more guitar parts. We were filming some new videos with Kenan today that'll be coming out on the channel, and a bunch of other goodies. But stay in touch. Let us know how we can help you, what you guys need help with, and we'd only be happy to go ahead and help you guys on your journey of becoming skilled worship guitar players. All right, guys, see you in the next one. Bye-bye.